2% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get pumped, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in a Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the hustlers quick to roll, the gangsters gon' move. Whatever clique you choose, you better stay.
Say what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down. Now, for those of y'all that's new to my page, in 1994, I got arrested. I was eventually sentenced to 16 years plus life, and I served 24 years straight in the California prison system. Yeah, that's me rapping on the intro. Like I keep telling y'all, the flow is nothing like Curtis Blow. If you want to check out more of my music, go to my YouTube playlist, scroll down to gas stations, and you will find more of my music there. Now let's hop right up into this video. Now, almost, I would say, from about the first month that I started doing my prison stories, I would get inquiries about if I happened to know the rapper X-Rated. I think that people assume, or they wanted to know, that due to the fact that I done a lot of years in prison and X-Rated done a lot of years in prison, they wanted to know if it was possible that we had met, ran across each other, right? When I would get those questions, I chose not to respond because I didn't want anybody to view, if I did a video on him, me being negative, trying to say bad things about him or things of that nature, put the dude down or whatever, right? Because that would never be my intention. But I did also, if I spoke on it, I wanted to do a video and be honest and give my honest opinion, right? And so since I didn't want it to be viewed as negative, I chose not to do it. So lately, X-Rated has done several interviews on different platforms discussing the nature of his case and things that brought him to prison. And so I changed my mind, feeling that since he has put the information out there, it would be no harm in me doing it as well. And so, for those of you guys who may not be familiar with X-Rated, I think it's safe to say that he's a Sacramento legend and possibly even a Bay Area legend. I don't necessarily know how he's viewed out there, right? But he is a rapper from Sacramento who happened to go to prison and do a lot of time in prison, right? So I happened to run across him, I want to say in 97. It may have been 96, but I believe it was 97 at a prison known as Salinas Valley Prison. Now, up until that point, I had never heard of X-Rated because back then, Northern California and Southern California was like worlds apart. This was before YouTube and things of that nature, and so I had never heard of him. But let me just insert a small clip for those of you guys who may not be familiar with him, and it'll give you an idea of why he came to prison.
Stan, 2 months ago, a gang of teenagers kicked in Patricia Harris's front door in the middle of the night. One of them shot and killed her. Police arrested 5 teenagers and charged them with murder. Now prosecutors may try to prove at least one of the teens had a premeditation for killing in cold blood that he wrote about in rap songs.
Patricia Harris fought to keep gangs out of her Meadowview neighborhood, but police believe gangsters killed the 42-year-old mother and grandmother by accident when they stormed her house. Police arrested 5 teenagers for the murder. One of those arrested is a 17-year-old rap singer named X-Rated.
Now, obviously, at some time during the investigation, his name came up. He was arrested, subsequently convicted, and given a 31-year to life sentence. And so this is how I happened to run across him. During the time of his arrest, I believe he was around the age of 17 years old, and he was already signed to a record deal. And some of those lyrics that he had recorded previously was used as evidence to help win a conviction against him in court. Nowadays, several laws have been changed that would have made it extremely harder for them to win a conviction against him. One of those laws being the introducing of rap lyrics into a trial, right? But as I was doing more research on X-Rated and his music, because I was not extremely familiar with him or his music, I happened to see where he done interviews admitting his involvement in this crime, which those things can be found on YouTube. And so for that reason, I think it would be asinine for me to say anything that would look like I'm defending him or attempting to defending him when he has admitted some involvement in this case. So I definitely don't want it construed as that's what I'm doing or attempting to do. So like I said, I became aware of him in prison in Salinas Valley. When he hit the yard, some people, of course, obviously knew who he was, and they said, hey, that's the rapper X-Rated, so on and so forth, right? At that time, I think I was only familiar with 2 Northern California rappers. One of those guys was Brother Lynch Hung. When I was in Denver at a swap meet, I happened to see a tape of his, and I liked how it looked, and so I bought the tape. And I think the other rapper was a guy by the name of Mac Mall. At that time, I wasn't even familiar with the rapper Sibo. I learned of Sibo by a lot of Northern Crips talking about him, asking had I heard of him and things like that, right? So I would see X-Rated rapping on the yard. So let me say that I was never formally introduced to X-Rated. We never talked, we never spoke, but not only did we happen to be in the same prison and on the same yard, we actually happen to be in the same building, maybe 4 or 5 cells away, right? So I would often see X-Rated on the yard rapping with a few dudes. One of those dudes was Creep from Do Rock. Another dude was Roscoe from Watergate. And I believe it also was a dude by the name of MC, who was from Orange County. They would be over there on the yard, rapping in ciphers and things like that, right? Also, like I said, we were in the same building. So there was a lot of times when I would see him come out of his cell, go to the phone, he would have a little radio with him, and he would be rapping over the phone. Now, the radio would be playing an instrumental. So there was a radio station out there. I don't remember the name of the radio station, but they had a segment that played hip hop. And that segment was, the DJ was a dude by the name of Muhammad. Muhammad would often cater to the people in the prison, man. Muhammad was real cool, man. He would let, if you was locked up in that prison at a certain point, he would do dedications. You could have your family call up there and say, hey, I miss you, baby. I love you. I'll be up there to see you tomorrow. Keep your head up, so on and so forth. And so for a person being locked up, being in prison, who possibly can't make a phone call or who possibly hasn't spoke to his loved one in years, it was extremely inspirational to be able to hear your loved one's voice over the phone. And though while I never received any dedications over the phone, just being in a position like that, hearing the voices of other people's loved ones who was in the same situation that I was, send them words of encouragement, was definitely inspirational, right? And so there would be times when he would come out of his cell, he would have his radio with him, Muhammad would be playing an instrumental, and he would rap over the phone. And so a lot of times I would listen to this radio station because, of course, I loved hip hop music. There happened to be another dude also, a rapper by the name of JD, who rapped in a group known as the Lynch Mob, which was a group that was connected to Ice Cube. He happened to be on another yard, and he would often call in and be on the radio station as well. One of the things that I believe that fans of his music felt that was so phenomenal and kept them connected to him is he continued to put out music from prison, and not only music, but quality music in terms of how the audio sounded. The California Department of Corrections does not allow convicts to have any music playing device with recording capabilities. Anytime we ordered a radio or something that we could listen to music on, if it had a recording device or recording capabilities, it was disconnected before they gave it to us. So the fact that he was continuously able to put out quality sounding music back before cell phones or back before technology was advanced like it is today was definitely amazing.
His most recent album is called Vengeance Is Mine and was released while Brown was behind bars here at Mule Creek State Prison in Amador County. X-Rated's latest album was released November 21st. He spent that day in segregated housing while officers searched his cell for recording devices.
We don't believe that those vocal tracks were done within the confines of our prison.
Did you record Vengeance Is Mine in this prison?
No.
How'd you do it?
It was recorded. At Salinas Valley State Prison, I had an opportunity to do songs. Then I had hundreds memorized and written down, and when I got the opportunity, I recorded every song that I had in my mind.
The opportunity he's speaking of came when a corrections officer smuggled recording equipment into Salinas Valley State Prison. The California Department of Corrections investigated the case. The officer was fired, and Brown was transferred to Mule Creek. From the state's perspective, the damage was done. The music was already out there.
Basically, I have a catalog deep enough to drop another 10 albums if I chose to.
I don't know, at some point in time, I just looked up and he was gone from our yard. I don't know why. If he happened to have any problems on that yard, it was never known to me. He did happen to get in some altercations, and there were some riots and things that jumped off due to the nature of his crime. I think it's important to mention that the Crips were formed and Crippin had started somewhere around 1969. Now, this is 1997, 98, somewhere up in that time period. So the dudes who started Crippin would only have been around that time 44, 45 years old, somewhere around there, right? Now, say what you want about the negativity of gangs, so on and so forth, but the fact of the matter is, at the time that gangs started, you had a lot of people who came from two-parent homes or communities who raised and loved everyone in that community. So a lot of the values and the morals from the gang members from that era were passed down to the next few generations to come, were vastly different from the morals of gang members today. There was actually some very important unwritten rules that was formed back in those days concerning when you may happen to catch a person who was from an opposite gang or somebody that you was beefing with, if you happen to run across them when they was with a mother, a young brother, or a family member who you definitely knew was not involved in the gang. You would give them what is known as a pass. And also in one of X-Rated's interviews, he goes on to say as much. So check this out.
But we do know that you give passes to parents, you give passes to children. We know that culturally. I could have seen the same dude in the mall with his mom and walked right past him, just looked at him, and kept it moving. You let that breathe. Everybody know that's true. There's a significant difficulty involved in accepting the truth of this statement, man. That the black mother, right, in a household, and I believe Mrs. Harris was like Puerto Rican. She was a mixed heritage. But the bottom line is the mother. Let's just go there then. The mother, because this is true for Italians, this is true. The mother in a household is an essential figure that is so valuable, and then God bless the dads out there. But the mother, bro, and so there's a knowledge, there's an inherent knowledge of the truth of that fact. And so there's some shame involved in it, So it was all about just really trying to strike this balance of appearing to be non-pulsed and unimpacted by this experience, but also carrying shame and guilt because there's this subconscious awareness that this was wrong, bro. Straight up.
So obviously my point of inserting that into the video is to say that there was definitely people in prison at the time who was not necessarily fond of the reason X-Rated came to prison. And I'm meaning specifically dudes who may have been from the opposing gang and were friends of the guys whose mother was killed in that incident. I want to make it extremely clear that I was never on any yard with X-Rated when he got into any altercations for whatever reason. But by me just doing a lot of time, right, I can definitely say that the nature of him being in prison would have definitely been frowned upon by some dudes. And you may have had some dudes, I'm not saying that this is true, but you may have had some dudes who would instigate situations like that. Like, hey man, damn, y'all letting that dude walk around in the yard and that dude is here for reasons that he's here. So of course, at some point in time, due to the nature of why X-Rated was in prison, things became volatile and violence ensued. And, just keeping it 100, right? When you come to prison for being involved in a shooting which led to the killing of someone's mother, you may get into it at one prison and be sent to another prison, and you just never know when dudes from that opposing gang, if they happen to be on that yard with you, want to trip. So while there are a lot of crimes that happen on the street that are left on the street once you come to prison, coming to prison for something like that would definitely be a crime that you would have to stay on your toes and keep your head on the swivel at all times, because let's just keep it real. That's something that is emotionally charging for a lot of people, right? And so you never know when a person from the opposing gang may just feel angry or upset. And so of course you never know when you may run across someone who may have happened to be friends with the guys whose mother was killed in that situation. And so you definitely have to stay on your toes. So now let's fast forward to around 2010. X-Rated is attacked on a prison yard, right? Now, there are many different videos on YouTube discussing those things. And so for those of you guys who may be interested in that or want to try to sift through what possibly could have happened and what possibly didn't happen, you know, I wasn't there, so I don't know what's fact or what's not fact, right? Now, one thing that I do know that is a fact is during the time of this attack, he was on a sensitive needs yard. Now, this was the main reason that earlier in the past I chose not to make the video, because I didn't want anyone to feel that I was trying to disrespect him or put smut on his name, so on and so forth. Anytime I do make a video, I feel I have to be honest and transparent. Often when I was doing research, watching some interviews, I would read through the comments, and he definitely has a large, loyal cult following. You would have some people in the comments saying that the reason that he was on SNY was due to his celebrity status, right? Now, me doing a lot of time in prison, like I say, I'm not trying to put any smut on the man, but I know that to be very, very unlikely, right? The California Department of Correction will rarely force a person to go to SNY. Now, they may come to you and say, hey, we have received some information that your life is in jeopardy, and would you like to go to a SNY? You always have the right to say, no, I don't feel my life is in jeopardy. And then they will have you sign a form, which is basically a waiver relieving them of any legal obligation or responsibility in the event something happens to you on the yard. Also, I have done time with many people who were just as famous as X-Rated. I've been on the yard with DeAndre Bonds, who has starred in a lot of movies. Actually, when I was on the yard with him, a movie that he was in came on TV. Then he ended up getting into a couple altercations, and in his own words, he admitted that the administration knew he was in the movies. They never forced him to go SNY. I was also on the yard with the rapper Trey D, who had been in movies as well, and also in a rap group with the rapper Snoop Dogg. Actually, one time I was standing outside waiting to get on the phone. Trey D was on the phone. Once he got off the phone, the guard in the tower, who was a dude by the name of Emar, says, hey, what's up, Trey D? I saw you last night in Baby Boy. And so my whole case in point is they didn't force him to go SNY. I've also been on the yard with the rapper J.O. Felony, and also we have to keep in mind the NFL running back Lawrence Phillips, who eventually came to prison and committed suicide on a general population yard. So once again, I say all these things not to try to smut the man, to try to put a bad jacket on the man. I'm just saying facts is facts. So also, let me show you guys his response to a question when he was on Vlad TV, when Vlad asked him, how did he feel about Keefe D being locked up on his alleged charges in the involvement of the rapper Tupac?
Oh, you fast forward to 2024, Keefe D is sitting in jail awaiting murder charges around the Tupac situation. How do you feel about that?
I don't feel shit about that. Honestly, I don't really feel shit about that. I feel like, I feel like the outcomes are the direct result of niggas' behavior. Everybody's outcomes are a result of their behaviors, inclusive of Tupac, inclusive of Keefe D, inclusive of his interview with you, inclusive of the detectives. Everybody's outcomes are a direct result of the behaviors that they decided they wanted to participate in.
So you pretty much just heard him say that he has no feelings about Keefe D being where he is because he is there due to choices he made at some point in time in his life. And that very statement is also applicable and can be applied to X-Rated being on the SNY yard. So once again, this is not a shot at him. It is what it is. So once again, I do not know for certainty why he was on the S&Y yard. I only have an opinion, right? And my opinion is just for him coming to prison, being charged with those charges, it definitely was something that could potentially bring him a lot of grief. And he possibly may have got tired of just going through the altercations and dealing with the things that was coming back due to the reason he was in prison. I believe it was around 2010 when I first seen the video of him being attacked on that S&Y yard, right? I can't insert the video due to YouTube's policy against violence, right? But for those who want to see the video, it can easily be found, right? Now, of course, I believe back in 2010, when it was being circulated, because around that time we had cell phones and stuff like that, right? So it was being circulated. Dudes was like, damn, man, did you see that video of X-Rated being stabbed on that PC yard? And many of us who still subscribed to a gang belief system definitely was disappointed, right? Because let's just keep it 100, man. Going to a S&Y, going to a PC yard is something that is deeply frowned upon by gang members, right? But the truth of the matter is this, right? And I don't know this to be true, but this is something that I'm saying. When you are in prison and a large collective, whether it's the collective that you associate yourself with, or sometimes when it's another collective, when a large collective no longer desires your presence on the yard, and once again, I'm not saying that this is what happened, but when a large collective is saying, hey man, you gotta go, you're gonna have to go. You may go voluntarily, or you may go by constantly coming to the yard each time you do come to the yard, getting into physical altercations, stabbings, so on and so forth with these people who oppose your presence, right? Because at the end of the day, let's still keep in mind that he came to jail behind a decision that he made when he was 17 years old, which regardless of him being a gang member or whatever, he still was a kid, right? And so me, at this point in stage in my life and the maturity that I feel that I've accomplished, there's no way that I'm going to condemn a person forever for a decision that he made at 17 years old, right? And let me add something else that I think is extremely important, right? One of the reasons that I, as a person who had life, is no longer in prison, as well as X-Rated, and many other people who had life sentences who committed crimes under the age of 26 is, so there was a study done that was widely accepted by psychiatrists and scientists that shows the prefrontal cortex, or the part of the brain that's responsible for decision making, is not fully developed until the age of 25. So if you happen to be convicted of a crime that carried a life sentence and you committed that crime before the age of 26, when you went to the parole board, extreme consideration was given to the fact that you fell under what is known as these youth offender guidelines. One thing that I can say, and I think that we all agree on, for anyone who has heard an X-Rated interview, we all can agree that the man is extremely intelligent and he is articulate and eloquent in the way that he expresses himself, right? Me personally, I definitely have to take my hat off to him and commend him, and this is why, right? Me and X-Rated share a unique experience, and that experience is we both had a life sentence in an environment where negativity was bred and birthed. Back around the time that X-Rated and I entered into the California Department of Corrections, there was basically no parole being given to anyone who had a life sentence. Even if you had life with the possibility of parole, the way that the board was set up and structured, and the governors who were in place at that time were systematically denying anybody who came to jail and received a life sentence for murder. So basically what that does is it breeds a environment of negativity. It breeds a environment of discouragement, and it breeds more violence, right? Because if a person has no incentive to try to get out of prison, if you could thinking, okay, well, damn, man, I got a life sentence, I'm not going home. And if I'm incarcerated with the worst of the worst that California has to offer, there is no need for me to think positive. There is no need for me to do anything positive. There is no need for me to educate myself. And there is definitely no need to try to change my violent disposition or my violent gang member belief system that has got me here, and definitely will help me now to survive in a place where violence is commended, right? So for a person to elevate his mind and try to see hope in a situation where people have no hope. I remember there were certain times, man, when you would have dudes who had life sentences speak positively about trying to go home, and other people who had life and was in the same situation and predicament would clown them, look at them like they was stupid, tell them, man, you getting soft. You know, what you want to go home for? You wasn't worried about going home when you was out there on the streets. And even though you may be in prison, you may have 200 years plus life. Who doesn't want to go home? You may be in prison with life without parole, but who doesn't want to go home? You know what I'm saying? So just like me, I had a life sentence, right? But now I'm home. So when you're in a position to where you kill all hope of going home, then of course you're never going to go home. So like I said, once again, man, I definitely just commend him. I have been in that situation, and for him to want to educate himself in a place where education is many times frowned upon is definitely commendable, man. So once again, man, that's my video right there. Shout out to X-Rated. Glad to see him free. You already know what it is. It's your boy 16 to life. Resume normal program.
I done lost too many homies from the park in my lifetime. Look in my heart and ain't no telling what you might find. The streets turned to cold and dark as the nighttime. I stay strapped, get at me like a mark, I'm a like mine. Push the cold line for the set, yeah, that's straight facts. Now I'm wise and living with regrets, and I hate that. The judge gave me 16 to life cause I ate that. I walked off 24 flat and came straight back. Right to the turf where some swear it ain't safe at. Raised up in church, but this Glock is where my faith at. I really play ball, Earl Walton, Chris Meshack, Don Leary, K Love, you know I gotta stay black. I never made the pack train by Coach Smith. I was on George selling crack, stacking cheese on the dope shift. The sawed-off gauge up my sleeve made my coat stiff. Like Jimmy Lee and Emery, I was quick to smoke shit. I ain't talking dope, bitch, cause time wasn't scaring me. Cross the line, I'ma pop the 9, that's a guarantee. I wouldn't lie, cause they never gave me therapy. It fucked up my mind, and I'm still praying for clarity. They locking up our kind, I don't like the disparity. They'll give a nigga life before they give a nigga charity. The streets was my wife, though I begged the hoe to marry me. And now I'm dedicated in this life until they bury me. Reality, I wish I never spent a day in it. I advise all my young homies not to play in it. I promise when they put you in that dirt, you gon' stay in it. Pastor Thomas opened up the church, I need to pray in it. His mama dropped enough tears to fill a coffee cup. Started to shout and passed out when his coffin shut. She going crazy cause her baby stuck. She prayed to God all her life and now she feel he never gave a fuck. His mama dropped enough tears to fill a coffee cup. Started to shout and passed out when his coffin shut. She going crazy cause her baby stuck. She prayed to God all her life and now she feel he never gave a fuck. My little homie didn't get the message. Now his family stressing in the church pews. Tears dropping on their dresses and their church shoes. Asking God to help us please and guide us through this worst news. His mama got weak in the knees soon as she saw his earth move. She hurt and confused. Her son Nate was only 17. Now she's struggling with her faith and asking what do heaven mean. Every night in every dream she see him in the graveyard. The pain hurt her deep. She losing sleep and make her days hard. Can't stop her tears. Her thoughts got suicidal fast. Went to church for 30 years and threw her Bible in the trash. And every day she asked if God really exists, then why he let him do her baby like this? She yelling damn, damn, damn with closed fists like she Florida Evans. Middle fingers pointed up at the heaven. She said fuck God, the church, and the reverend cause her soul was hurt. Her baby rotting in that hole in the dirt. I saw my homies hold a funeral at the church. We used to sing it in the angel choir. I swear it hurts and I'm just hoping that eternal fire ain't their destiny. Lord knows I'd be a liar if I said this life ain't got the best of me. And I ain't tired seeing my homies expire dying young at a rapid rate. I went to jail, caught an L and watched the love evaporate. Saw homies who was active go out backwards and deactivate. I knew that they was actors when them actors started acting fake. Jealousy, cap and hate and all the above got me feeling cuz where is the love? Nigga, you know all your life I run up on you, fill your head with a slug and leave you dead in the back of the club. Emilio, rest in peace. Wrestling with this life is a beast, and Lord knows there's nothing nice on these streets. Just niggas with poles, they heart is cold and they be dying to beef. And leave your mama sad, crying with grief. His mama dropped enough tears to fill a coffee cup. Started to shout and passed out when his coffin shut. She going crazy cause her baby stuck. She prayed to God all her life and now she feel he never gave a fuck. His mama dropped enough tears to fill a coffee cup. Started to shout and passed out when his coffin shut. She going crazy cause her baby stuck. She prayed to God all her life and now she feel he never gave a fuck.